Why does Taiwan's face mask donations to the U.S. anger the Chinese regime? And what's the regime's true motive in waging attacks against the U.S.? A China expert explains. In South Korea, a 17-year-old boy was tested 14 times for the virus before he died, but authorities have not released an official cause of death. New York State's governor says 100% of workers at almost all companies must stay home, with safeguards in place for economic hardship. A huge $1 trillion package of emergency relief assessed in the Senate today. Find out what benefits the bill would provide. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm your host, Tiffany Meyer. As the virus pandemic continues spreading, officials around the world are questioning China's handling of the outbreak. President Trump says the regime knew about the outbreak for months but kept silent. Trump said in a tweet on Wednesday he has been very serious about the CCP virus, and many decisions, including closing the border with China, saved many lives. He condemned the new narrative that the Chinese regime is trying to push. Defense Secretary Mark Esper on Friday dismissed China's allegations that the U.S. military spread the coronavirus to China as completely absurd. Donald Trump Jr. retweeted a CCTV program where a so-called expert was brought in who suggested the reason behind the U.S. releasing a vaccine so quickly meant that they were working on it long before the pandemic. To which the host concluded that the U.S. had this virus in their possession long before the outbreak began. Trump Jr. said it's incredible and disgusting, reminding people not to forget the false narrative. In an opinion piece in the Washington Post says, "Don't blame China for the coronavirus, blame the Chinese Communist Party." The commentator added, "Let's stop saying Chinese virus, not because everyone who uses it is racist, but because it needlessly plays into the Chinese Communist Party's attempts to divide us and deflect our attention from their bad actions." And Japan's Deputy Prime Minister Taro Aso said Thursday, it's best not to trust the data provided by the Chinese regime. And Brazilian President's son and Senator Eduardo Bolsonaro pointed to the Chinese regime's dictatorship and deliberate cover-up of the virus. He wrote on Twitter, "Once again, the dictatorship chose to hide some serious matters instead of revealing the facts, which could have saved countless lives." In South Korea, a 17-year-old boy was tested 14 times for the virus before he died. But there are questions about what he died from. Despite exhibiting symptoms similar to the CCP virus, the first 12 tests came back negative. The 13th test came back positive. But the last test before he died, the 14th one, tested negative again. Because of the multiple negative tests, authorities have not released an official cause of death. Some are calling for the hospital to be investigated and say the lab tests were contaminated. A Boston woman who flew back to China is being investigated by Chinese authorities. She is accused of concealing her symptoms to board a plane and exposing passengers on the same plane to the virus. She developed symptoms in the States. She then decided to fly back to China with her family. The Chinese CDC said at a press conference that the woman named Li took antipyretics on a plane flying to Beijing and lied to authorities, hiding her symptoms. If she is found guilty, she could face up to 7 years in prison. Her company in Boston, Biogen, announced on Friday on Chinese WeChat that they have fired Ms. Li as her behavior is against the values of the company. Health officials in Taiwan say they alerted the World Health Organization about the risk of human-to-human transmission of the virus at the end of December last year, but their concerns were not passed on to other countries. And after whistleblower Dr. Li Wenliang tried warning people about the CCP virus, 8 whistleblower doctors were condemned by state authorities in China. 8 TV anchors on CCTV all reporting about the 8 whistleblowers. One person commented saying the Wuhan police station really pushes people to fame. Aside from telling the doctors to sign a formal apology, the district police station even had CCTV and media cover the story throughout the country. For the past week, the Chinese Communist regime has been claiming 0 to 4 new cases for Wuhan for the CCP virus. But leaked documents show the real number could be much higher, even close to 100 in one day.
According to internal government documents obtained by our sister media, the Chinese Epoch Times, in one example, the real number of new cases of infection in Wuhan is over 20 times more than the official numbers. The documents, delivered to the Wuhan Health Commission, are part of a daily report of nucleic test results that confirm cases of infection of the CCP virus. The reports show, for March 14th, last Saturday, among the over 16,000 people examined, 91 tested positive for the first time. This means there were 91 newly confirmed cases in Wuhan last Saturday. But the official number from the Chinese regime for Wuhan City for the same day was 4. For the next day, March 15th, it's still 4. The total number is less than 5% of the real number, or to put it another way, over 95% of new cases were concealed. On Thursday, President Trump expressed doubt about the data released by the communist regime.
As far as believing what they're putting out now, I hope it's true. Who knows?
The Chinese regime is saying the virus has basically been contained in China, but the leaked documents show among the 16,000 tested, over a quarter took the test for the first time, representing a potentially larger number of people who could be infected but don't know it. And these numbers are from those who have taken the test. With the city's lockdown, many are confined to their homes and have had no chance to take the test. So the real number could be still higher.
Taiwan's decision to donate face masks to the United States angers China. The state media published commentary saying Taiwan's attitude is more poisonous than the virus. An expert says this is part of China's broader plan to use the pandemic to weaken the U.S. NTD's Juliet Song reports.
The Chinese regime is angered by Taiwan and the United States' joint effort to fight the CCP virus. Local Taiwanese reports say the island nation plans to donate 100,000 face masks per week to the United States, and the U.S. will reserve 300,000 hazmat suits in return. China's state media published commentary saying Taiwan's donation is anti-China and fawning the United States. It said Taiwan's attitude is, quote, more poisonous than the virus. A China expert says its move to pressure Taiwan isn't isolated, but part of the CCP's systematic attack against the United States.
From the perspective of the Chinese Communist Party, they're using the pandemic as an excellent weapon to attack the United States.
White House trade advisor Peter Navarro said on the Fox interview that China has stopped all exports of N95 respirator masks and effectively nationalized 3M, an American medical supplies company. Aside from restricting exports, the Chinese regime expelled American journalists. It also unleashed the global disinformation campaign, conjuring claims that the virus came from the U.S. military.
The Chinese Communist Party is pushing all these moves simultaneously against the U.S. I think their goal is to maximize their effort to cripple the country. I think their goal is to maximize their effort to attack the country.
Tang said the CCP is still covering up real infection numbers. The regime seems to be shifting focus from dealing with the public health crisis to seeing it as an opportunity to cripple the U.S. and other democratic countries and reach its ultimate goal.
The Chinese Communist Party never gave up its wild ambition to replace the United States as the world's most powerful country. They would be able to expand their red power throughout the globe if they could replace the U.S.
Tang said the CCP wants to achieve the so-called community of shared future for mankind. To put it in plain words, the communist regime wants the communist ideology to eventually dominate the whole world. Juliet Song, NTD News, New York.
The U.S. and Mexico have agreed to limit travel across the border. The measure will go into effect at midnight. The Secretary of Homeland Security says a number of frontline officers are already infected with the disease. Officials say an outbreak along the border would threaten the country's national security.
To stem the spread of the CCP virus, the U.S. and Mexico have agreed to only allow essential traffic across the border. Essential traffic includes travel for medical purposes, students traveling for school, or anyone who needs to cross the border as part of their work. Anyone arriving at the border without proper identification will no longer be taken to federal facilities. They'll be immediately returned to other countries.
Note that the department currently apprehends foreign nationals from over 120 different countries around the world. the vast majority of those having coronavirus cases.
The administration wants to avoid border officials and others getting infected, putting the country's immigration system and national security at risk.
The introduction and spread of the coronavirus in the department's border patrol stations and detention facilities presents a serious danger to migrants, our frontline agents, and officers, and the American people.
The U.S. was the first to ban travel from Wuhan, China, where the virus originated. It then banned travel from other hard-hit countries like Iran and Italy.
Our health experts say that these measures have been truly effective at slowing the virus's spread to our shores.
The move comes 2 days after the U.S. and Canada agreed to do the same. Both restrictions will go into effect at midnight.
Republicans and Democrats meeting today to discuss the third phase of emergency legislation to help stop the economic fallout. The $1 trillion plus package will include direct financial help for Americans, relief for small businesses, and help for hard-hit industries. It will also further healthcare provisions to combat the disease COVID-19.
Mr. President, as our nation confronts this health crisis and the economic crisis it is spawning, Senate Republicans have prepared a bold legislative proposal.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell introduced on Thursday the CCP Virus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act. It is the third phase of legislation targeting the economic crisis induced by the global pandemic, and it's the largest by far. According to Reuters, it has a price tag of over $1 trillion. The plan includes cash payments of up to $1,200 for individuals and $2,400 for couples, along with an additional $500 for each child. The maximum payments will be for those individuals earning no more than $75,000 and $150,000 for a couple. Besides direct payments, McConnell gave 3 other key areas of priority: small business relief, aid to industries most hurt by the lockdowns, and more health care provisions. Airlines are one of the industries of national importance expected to get loans. The emergency legislation was put forward by Republicans. McConnell said this was the quickest way.
The Republicans are in the majority in the Senate. We wanted to put forward our proposal. We feel like we have an obligation to do that as a majority. And the Democrats, of course, need to be given an opportunity to react to it, and that all begins tomorrow.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said on first reading they were not satisfied it does enough for workers.
McConnell said the goal is to pass the nearly $1 trillion economy deal on Monday. New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo announced earlier this week that at least 75% of the non-essential workforce has to work from home. Today at a press conference, he announced the number is changing yet again.
Today we're bringing it to 100% of the workforce must stay home.
Cuomo called it the most drastic action we can take, adding that these are not helpful hints, but legal provisions. Cuomo told the media he understands that some businesses will have to shut down because of his orders. He said he alone will take the blame for these consequences.
If everything we do saves just one life, I'll be happy.
In order to support the workers that are now without income, the governor ordered that all housing and business evictions be put on hold for the next 90 days, stating that if he is already putting people out of work, he doesn't want to put them out of housing as well. Cuomo also pleaded with companies that have ventilators they're not currently using to either lend or sell them to the state government.
We need those ventilators. The ventilators are to this war what missiles were to World War II, right?
He said any small or large business that is willing to sell or lend the machines should reach out to the state government. He says lots of businesses have ventilators just standing at the corner of the office.
And in New York, getting a haircut may get a little harder. Barber shops, nail salons, and similar businesses were ordered to close down by Saturday night. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more on a barbershop's sudden rush of business following the announcement.
Made Man Barbershop has already closed 4 out of 5 of its locations because of the pandemic. Now they're just open in Manhattan.
Let's call it, this is our flagship. You know, this is where people really know about us. People know to come here. How's that?
Sam's been doing this for over 20 years, and his barbershop's been open for 7. It looks busy now, but the owner said business only picked up again today. Customers told us they came for a haircut after New York ordered that all barbershops close down by Saturday night.
Yeah, I actually got my appointment right after the announcement was made.
Sam said the business will suffer losses, but people's health is first and foremost. And in light of the pandemic, they had already advised their clients not to come in if they have symptoms.
We have publicized and sent out a mass email to our clientele that if you feel like you're coming down with something, please abstain from coming in.
But for this business and others like it, there's really no cure or preventative measure for all the losses it'll take. But he's hopeful Congress can help cushion the blow. Restaurants, cafes, and other food and drink places are undergoing similar situations. Businesses down, closed, or limited to delivery or takeout service. However, barbershops don't generally deliver haircuts, as you might have guessed. Despite the setback, Sam said they're willing to adjust to the pandemic, and if the government permits, they could make their business mobile.
It's a thought, you know what I mean? It's a thought. Listen, a lot of the people here today aren't here because of any other reason except they're literally trying to prepare for what tomorrow may be.
Governor Cuomo did not say how long the order would last, but Made Man Barbershop will stay open for as long as it can on Saturday. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin is moving the nation's tax filing deadline from April 15th to July 15th. His decision gives Americans extra time amid the CCP virus pandemic. He said he was acting at the request of President Trump, but Mnuchin said that people who may get tax refunds should still file earlier. Earlier this week, the payment deadline was extended, but not the filing deadline. Now Americans will have more time for both. And in addition to help from the federal level, colleges across the nation are taking steps to meet the needs of their students during these unpredictable times. Grade schools and businesses are closing their doors too. The sudden change could put a lot of pressure on students, but they are being looked out for.
Being told to move out of your living space can be a real shock, even if it's just a temporary space like a campus dorm.
But I also just feel really suddenly displaced. Yeah, I felt really sad initially, but now I'm kind of over it.
Well, I don't think I can get home right now.
The pressure can be huge, especially if you're thousands of miles away from home or don't have much of a home to go to. But thankfully, colleges across the nation are trying to take care of their students amid all the sudden changes.
MIT's been really supportive with the financial resources, helping move out, helping navigate around flights.
Even though most are required to leave the dorms, a number of universities are allowing exceptions for those who have nowhere else to go right now. Still, other schools are offering emergency aid for students so they can handle unexpected financial difficulties. One private university in Indiana even started an emergency relief fund for their students.
Our students need laptops, they need internet connectivity at home, and some of them did not have that available, so we were able to provide funding for that.
While students are now in a tough situation, many are still optimistic about their future.
And I see no need to preemptively panic about what the future might hold, more just focus on what I can control for now.
So at least I have another 3 years to look forward to.
I mean, this is one down point in the next 4 years. It's not too bad, I guess.
Several colleges have shifted all instruction online, and like other aspects of daily life, people just aren't sure what to expect in the next couple of months. But from the federal government down to the student dorms, people are pulling together and looking out for others in this time of need. Melina Weiskup, NTD News, New York.
In an effort to help families and children during the virus pandemic, Burger King is giving parents the gift of free meals for their kids starting next week. The burger chain says next Monday it will offer 2 free kids meals for every adult meal that's ordered. But the offer is only for meals purchased online and on Burger King's app. That's where you will find the coupons for the offer. Burger King says customers can redeem those coupons one time per guest every day through April 6th. Or as long as supplies last. And countries around the globe keep making changes to daily life in order to help flatten the curve of the outbreak.
Italy recorded the largest ever one-day increase of CCP virus deaths on Wednesday.
The problem is that so many of our staff are at home as they are positive for COVID. There is a high level of contagion, and we're not even counting the dead anymore.
With over 4,000 reported virus deaths, Italy has now surpassed China as the country with the most recorded deaths caused by the virus. But the Chinese Communist Party has underreported its number of cases and is censoring news about the virus. With 529 confirmed cases, Israel joins the list of nations urging people to stay home. Amid the difficult times, Israelis took the chance to show their gratitude for the medical staff risking their lives with an unusual kind of organized event. At 6 p.m. on Thursday, people all over Israel cheered from their balconies for the medical staff working in hospitals. Meanwhile, a DJ in the UK made the equivalent of $3,500 in 2 hours by selling toilet paper on the streets of Kent. The DJ told Newsflare he spent 2 hours selling the rolls and shifted thousands of them after over 200 people turned up. But Netflix and YouTube have bad news for Europeans trying to pass time in self-isolation. Their services will still be provided, but high definition will not be an option for now. Instead, the bandwidth is needed for online classes for students and for emergency services.
And in France, self-isolation seems hard to apply as the French still find reasons to leave their house. Our France reporter David Vives has more.
French President Emmanuel Macron said on Friday, France is not through the worst of the outbreak yet, and more was expected.
We are at the start of this crisis. We put in place measures to absorb this first wave. It's a race against the virus.
The French government on Tuesday put its 67 million people under lockdown in an unprecedented act during peacetime. But some French still run away from the confinement measures.
It seems like jogging and riding bicycle are very popular these days. Those are the only solo sports allowed to be practiced, and you're still legally allowed to go out for those reasons.
We could be used to the confinement, but at one moment we get fed up. We have to get out, breathe, get some air.
This is particularly the case in the south of France, where spring has arrived and people want to walk.
It's going to be Sunday every day. This is great. I am very happy.
In Nice, local leaders have closed beaches from the public and the iconic Promenade des Anglais. The mayor also declared the first curfew in the country at 8 p.m. to force people to stay home. Like this drone telling people to respect the 1 meter safe distance between people. But self-isolation comes at a higher price for the economy.
Almost all production has stopped in France. Even the workers' unions are calling on the government to keep it up. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
And now to potential medical solutions. Researchers are studying whether 2 generic drugs can help doctors treat the CCP virus. The drugs are widely available and are currently used to treat other illnesses.
Researchers have launched studies to see whether widely available generic drugs can be used to treat the CCP virus. There are currently no vaccines or treatments available, so patients can only receive supportive care for now.
If these drug tests are successful, then we will have some tools in our toolkit to help people keep from getting infected and, help them get better faster.
A 1,500-person trial led by the University of Minnesota began this week. Researchers hope to find out whether malaria treatment hydroxychloroquine can help, along with other trials assessing the blood pressure drug losartan. The malaria drug is also being tested in China, Australia, and France. It was touted earlier this week by Tesla chief executive Elon Musk, who recovered from malaria in 2000 after taking the medication. Pharmaceutical companies are also working to develop treatments for COVID-19, including the experimental antiviral drug remdesivir, which is given to hospitalized patients via intravenous infusion over several days.
Here at China in Focus, we bring you first-hand information from inside China. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.